How powerful is Cox Fiber? Powerful enough to keep fans across the country in the action on the biggest game days of the year. Whether you're one of 65,000 fans at Allegiant Stadium or you're streaming the game at home with Cox Fiber from the company with America's fastest download speeds, whenever it matters most, Cox keeps you connected. Limited availability in select areas. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
Radio you can touch.
Showtime. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show, starring Bob Lutz.
Now you feel good because Max, who has a sense of humor of a pie.
Who threw those pies?
Who threw those pies?
Oh, I threw the pies.
Either I'm losing it, my grasp on humor. I mean, I don't know, man.
Jeff Lutz.
Just be honest, the Downtown Athletic Club has no idea what you're doing. They don't know you exist.
Hey, listen. There's a phone call for you.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
No logic, no reason, no explanation. Just a prolonged nightmare.
Are you ready? Let's go!
Hello, everybody. It is a Tuesday edition of the Bob and Jeff Show on KFH Radio. I'm Bob Lutz. Jeff Lutz is here as co-host. Max Power producing engineering. And the phone number is 869-1240. Kind of shocking news, especially for Bucks fans and those of us here in Wichita. One of our own, Adrian Griffin, let go, dismissed
I have not
as the
seen
head
that.
coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm not sure what the heck's going on. They have the second best record in the NBA.
I've heard a lot of things about Giannis maybe not taking a particular liking
Here's what
to
I got.
Adrian
Here's
Griffin.
what I got to say to Giannis. You didn't like Budenholzer. You didn't like it. I don't care who you like. You're here. We pay you to play.
Did he not like Budenholzer?
No.
Because they won a championship with him.
You're here to play. And whether you have cozied up to the new coach is irrelevant to me.
Well, it's not irrelevant to the future of that franchise, unfortunately.
What happened to the good old days where you players played and coaches coached and general managers general managed?
Well, have you ever made 45 times the amount of money as one of your bosses?
Yes.
Really?
I don't make 45 times the amount you make, but
I'm your boss. I love it.
I don't make 45 times the amount Tony Dusing makes, but it's in the neighborhood.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, then maybe he'll be let go at your influence at some point.
No, I like Tony. And I don't think I could go to the powers that be at Odyssey and express my concern and have it taken seriously.
Well, Giannis can go to the powers that
So
be.
you're for that?
I'm not for it. I'm telling you how it is. I'm a truth teller on this show.
Do the players hire the coach?
Not in a traditional sense, but in a modern sense, yeah, they kind of do.
So what's the coach do?
I don't know.
Tell me what the modern coach in the NBA does with a bunch of millionaires, some of whom have now been given the authority to hire and fire you. What does a coach do in that situation?
I don't think it's just that. It's probably a lot of Giannis, but also Milwaukee defensively is not where they need to be. And I think that's a consideration because the numbers they have defensively don't lend themselves to a team that's going to go far in the playoffs. And, you know, they've come up short in some ways. Now, are they still the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis and Middleton and Brook Lopez and a bunch of good players? Yes. They could. Their ceiling is high. But they haven't reached their potential so far this season.
They ranked 25th in the league in points allowed, ahead of only San Antonio, Atlanta, Detroit, the Indiana Pacers, and Washington. Why aren't we firing Rick Carlisle?
Hey, that's not a bad question.
Give me an answer.
Because theirs is a style of play, right? They score 150 and give up 148. So it's a little bit different. I'm sure Milwaukee's probably up there in scoring.
Yeah, you know what I'm looking up right now.
They have Giannis.
You know me so well.
But I don't watch Milwaukee every night. I can't speak. I've only seen them play when they've played the Pacers, 5 games. and defensively they were terrible in those games. And Indiana won 4 of them.
Points, Indiana 1, Milwaukee 2. Why can't Milwaukee play the same as Indiana and then have a better record and a better team for it? Why can't they? Answer me.
You going to be okay?
No, I'm upset. I don't like to see one of our own mistreated like this without knowing anything that may have happened off the court, any of that stuff. I don't know. I could change my mind. But given you're here, oh, the Pacers, they're so good.
I've never said they're so good.
A better version of the Pacers.
I've never said they're so good, and they're not a better version. We beat them 4 out of 5. So while
they have a better record.
Their record is better, but I can't say that they're definitively a better team.
I can.
They've had a better season.
I can.
Tyrese Halliburton is injured right now, and that's not good. He's out for at least the next 3, and we got Denver.
I don't care
Boston,
who we got.
Phoenix.
I don't care about that. What I care about is trying to figure out how much power players have in the NBA.
More than coaches.
Then why have a coach?
And you got to have somebody.
Why not just have a team? And why pay all these guys? Have you ever seen an NBA bench? Do you ever look over at the bench and see how many coaches they have?
A lot.
Analytics, assistants, take care of this, go get me that. There's 10 coaches per team. Why?
Different. Why are there
What
10
do
baseball
they
coaches
do?
per team?
What do they do?
Why are there 10 baseball coaches? Why do you need 2 pitching coaches, 2 hitting coaches, a bench coach?
Because you got to make pitching changes. You make a lineup. These guys, what do they do?
Coach.
Boy, you're
Scout.
presenting a flimsy.
They run practices. They run scout team. The next guy scouts for the second farthest away opponent. You know what I'm saying? Like
knowing that at any moment, a player with the cloud of a Giannis, and listen, I like Giannis, so I don't just because you say he might have had an issue with Griffin, I don't take that.
He's been occasionally disengaged. You see him not really in the huddle sometimes. He's over on the scores table. I don't think this partnership has taken off from a solid foundation.
Well, if that's the case, then I blame Giannis.
And maybe that's enough. I don't know.
I know Adrian Griffin not to be a hothead, not to be.
Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe he's too old school. Maybe this is his first gig and he missed the mark somehow. I don't know. But I feel bad because how is he now going to get another head coaching job?
Well, that's what I mean. Unless some other player says, I want him. It has nothing to do, apparently, with anything else. It's just a musical chair of players who want to hire the head coach.
Well, they want to have a say in who is the head coach.
I can't believe you're defending that.
How am I defending it? I'm explaining to you how it is.
So let's say for some reason you couldn't do this show anymore. You think Tony Dusing is going to give me a say in who the next co-host is?
Yes, I do.
And you better. So why would he?
Why? I mean, he will. He would. I don't think that's debatable. He's not just going to plant someone in the seat and have a terrible show, although without me it would not be very good.
Well, I don't know. I do fine with Duda. I do fine with the big fella.
You do fine.
I do fine with
we all do fine.
Anybody who's thrust into this position, I do great with.
They're great now.
Yeah, I do great with Duda.
Fine's probably the word.
No, I do great with Duda.
I do great with Duda. And then when it's the 3 of us, it's because of me that we're great. And
all I can think of right now is KU Pat.
Really?
Yes.
What's he got to do?
Because he would disagree with you.
Okay, KU Pat's old.
Again, there you go, old. Anyway, that was unpleasant news. Because I was so excited when Adrian Griffin got that job. He'd been dreaming of a head coaching job. And now here it's gone. And I feel bad for the guy. I hope somebody, maybe the Lakers will bring him in. And is Darvin Ham working out?
Darvin? No.
Is he working out?
Not really.
Why is LeBron hanging on to him?
I don't know. Maybe Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss have more say than the Bucks people up top.
I can't wait to see the fallout from this. I'm looking forward to reading the stories because this is a major change. I can't imagine a coach with the second best record in whatever league he's in getting fired.
Well, they have the second best record in the conference, right?
Second best record in the league.
I don't think that's right.
Well, I don't care what you think's right. I'm the one who told you.
You did tell me.
They have that Boston has a better record, and they are tied with Minnesota.
What's their record?
30-13.
Wow, I didn't know that their record was that good.
30-13, and they're firing him again.
I don't know.
Aren't you outraged?
I'm not outraged. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but we know that there must be deeper issues.
Well, I don't know
that doesn't just happen.
I don't know if there are deeper issues or not.
Because the Bucks are a good team.
Last night, Joel Embiid was 70. I watched him score the last 10 or so against a team that is so bad that they weren't really guarding him late. No, San Antonio. I thought you were the NBA guy.
Yeah, I didn't watch the NBA. I couldn't remember who they played. My deepest apologies.
I mean,
Yeah, because he went against Wembanyama and he had 33.
Carl Anthony Towns had 44 at halftime and finished with 62, and they lost.
Yeah, that's incredible.
He was taking pretty much every shot for the Timberwolves. So that's, I believe, the first time in, I saw this number, the first time in over 40 years that two players have ever scored 60 or more on the same night, and only the fourth time ever.
Yeah, I would believe that. It doesn't come around very often, although in the last 4 or 5 years, we've had quite a few of those games, it seems like. Didn't Donovan Mitchell have like 70 and Devin Booker? Some of these guys have been scoring a lot of points. 81 and 100 have stood as 1 and 2, but they've been threatened, so we'll see. Not 100, but 81 has.
How good is Embiid? Is he good enough to win a title?
Yes, Philadelphia is very good and scary.
I kind of just leave him on the side and don't really think about him that often. But
well, he's going to be the MVP again, I would guess, unless it's Jokic.
But he's something else, man.
I know. It's incredible. We have these three guys.
He's the biggest person in the world, and he plays like a shooting guard.
And he doesn't miss free throws, and he shoots threes, and he's nimble.
And he's, like I said, he's the biggest guy in the world.
It's impressive.
He backed a guy in last night in the fourth quarter because that's all I watched. I wanted to see if he could get to 70. And he backed a guy in 2 steps from the foul line. Just manhandled him and laid it in. It was like something you see on the playground.
Yeah, he's unguardable. It's ridiculous.
Does he count as a KU guy?
If he played at KU. So, yes.
Well, that's something else, isn't it? Here's what we have on the show today, since you're disengaged.
I'm not disengaged.
At 2:25, Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star will weigh in on the Chiefs. They, of course, are in the AFC title game coming up Sunday afternoon in Baltimore against the Ravens. They are early underdogs in that game. They will remain underdogs in that game. But we'll see what Jesse thinks about their chances. At 2:45, Chris Strathman, the head girls basketball coach at McPherson, where they have another juggernaut team. Just that's something you can bank on. McPherson is always going to be good.
Yeah, and pretty much
what level of good?
In pretty much everything.
They're amazing up in that small Kansas community. I think I'm going to drive up there some weekend and just drive around the town.
All right.
What do you think of that?
No,
I did that in Newton and thoroughly enjoyed it.
I don't think much of it, to be honest. When did you do that in Newton?
Oh, in the fall. We went up there for lunch with some of our friends. Don't you want to know who?
No.
Of course you do.
I don't.
You're the nosiest person I've ever seen. That's why you opened my...
Are we going to let go of that at some point?
At some point. But anyway, while the women did some shopping in an antique store, my friend and I went driving around the city and just were amazed by Newton.
Amazed?
Yeah. I've never been that deep into Newton. It's a nice community.
But were you amazed?
They got a lot of stuff going on.
But were you amazed?
I was. I said to him, "This is amazing." No, really, that's how I said it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
I said, "Listen, I didn't know they had this much stuff in Newton."
That's crazy.
And
'cause I went around in Elkhart and I said, "Wow."
No, Elkhart would be a
this
nice.
is incredible.
You know what? Elkhart would see. You're not funny. Elkhart would be a great day trip, although it'd take 2 days because it's right out there on the Kansas-Colorado border.
Yeah, it was
And
amazing.
you know they had an NBC team for several years.
Dusters.
They did, and they were pretty good. Never won it, but they were. They played in the NBC World Series. I'll say 3 times maybe, and I might be wrong about that. They may have played more.
Well, let's find out.
But Elkhart, nice community from all I'm told. I've never set foot in Elkhart.
Really?
Can't say that about a lot of Kansas communities. But
I hear you.
that could be a day trip.
You never know.
You know, it's Meatloaf Day at Leakers.
Oh, thank goodness.
And I went out there and I bought our meatloaf, and then I got a meal for tomorrow as well. So I bought some of the scalloped potatoes and ham and chicken and noodles. And
Chicken and noodles? Why
and
didn't you get me some of that?
carrying the groceries out, I tipped the bag, and it was all over the place. So I made my best effort to get it cleaned up and servable here for later this evening. But I dropped the ball a little bit on that one.
Yeah, sounds like it. Do you know the most famous former Elkhart duster?
No,
Former journeyman catcher,
no.
Rod Barajas.
Rod Barajas, good for him.
He was an Elkhart duster.
Played for the Dusters
He did.
back in the day. That's good now. That's good stuff. So we got a game coming up in hour number 2.
I'm going to let Max participate in the game
All right.
today.
The Oscar nominations came out earlier today. We'll hold off on that. We'll talk about it tomorrow with Mike Furchess. I'm very much into that stuff, as you know, and it bothers you.
Doesn't bother me.
You don't understand it.
I do not.
I don't understand why you don't understand it. I love movies. You ought to be happy. I was worried that I was done with
I love movies too, but I don't care who wins the Oscar.
I care. Those things matter to me.
You want to feel validated. I don't
care about validation.
I don't need that.
I like watching good movies.
And you want your movie that you like to win Best Picture.
No, I like all the nominees, although there's 3 of them I haven't seen yet, so I got to get on that.
Which 3?
I got to look. So I gotta make sure that I've seen all the.
How many nominees are there for Best Picture?
5. No, 9. There's more than 3 I haven't seen.
I've got 9 to go.
And brag about that. That means you're detached. that
No,
you're not,
no, it doesn't.
You don't participate. And that's wonderful. People like you really stir the pot. You really make the world go around.
Thank you.
I don't want to conform. I don't care.
And that's not about conforming. It's
And
about
nobody wants to hear that.
who wants to conform. Like who wants to?
I want to conform and watch the good movies. If that's
But your opinion is what makes it good.
if that's conforming, then more power to me.
It is kind of. You're letting someone else tell you what the
Also,
good movie
sad
is.
news today that just happened, or earlier this afternoon, or at least we were notified about it. Charles Osgood, who had maybe the best presentation ever, the voice, the mannerisms, the way he went about broadcasting. I don't know that there's ever been anyone better than Charles Osgood. He passed away at the age of 91. And that's sad to me. Not to you, because
I'm sad. I watch CBS Sunday Morning all the time when he was on. I don't watch it as much now, but I did, and it's weird.
well, we're sad about Charles Osgood.
Yeah.
Max, if you can, as we go to one of these breaks, if you can play some Charles Osgood, because there's probably people listening to the show who may not know the name, but would certainly recognize the voice. And he's got one of the most recognizable voices in the history of broadcasting. He was just everywhere. He's been around forever.
It's a soothing voice.
It is a soothing,
calming voice.
Much like mine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, I mean, some people would be soothed by my voice.
They would?
My dog.
Well, she's sleeping, so I guess that counts.
She's soothed by pretty much everything I do. In her mind, I'm the best.
That's right. And if you transferred her to another owner tomorrow, that person.
No, they wouldn't. She'd forever be wondering, where's that man? Where's that man I love? You know?
Probably.
And how dare you say something?
I'm just saying, dogs are very loyal.
What about cats?
No, not as much.
Yeah, I'll take your cat, and they'll be the happiest cats.
My cats are loyal. They hang out with us.
All right, Max. Let's get to a break. We're going to talk some Chiefs with Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star ahead of their game for the AFC Championship and another trip to the Super Bowl. Jesse Newell from the Star joins us next.
Sunday morning has been, without a doubt, the most satisfying 22 years of my life in broadcasting. And right now, I'm proud to tell you that my successor will be someone we all know and think the world of. Jane Pauley, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I am honored beyond words to follow in your footsteps. But enough about me. I have news about your bow tie. The bow tie you are wearing right now is bound for the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in Washington, where it will join.
How powerful is Cox Fiber? Powerful enough to keep fans across the country in the action on the biggest game days of the year. Whether you're one of 65,000 fans at Allegiant Stadium or you're streaming the game at home with Cox Fiber from the company with America's fastest download speeds. Whenever it matters most, Cox keeps you connected. Limited availability in select areas. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show on 97.5 and 1240 KFA.
Here's Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star. We're going to talk about the Chiefs and the Ravens coming up on Sunday afternoon in Baltimore. Kansas City currently a 3.5-point underdog in that game. Jesse, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going well. So I've watched the Ravens play a lot. I've watched the Chiefs play a lot. The Ravens have looked to me, and as good as the Chiefs have been and are, and I respect everything about them, the Ravens look to me like they've been they've kind of separated themselves to some degree. Is 3.5 points enough, you think?
Yeah, it depends on your perspective here. To your point, I mean, if you look at some of the numbers out there, I really respect DVOA, which is kind of one that looks at every play that you've had and compares it to, what you've done against schedule-adjusted defense and offense. And Baltimore right now is like a historically good team. I mean, like top 5 in the last 30 or 40 years since this thing has been tracked. And so, to your point, yes, the numbers are back up exactly what you're saying, which is the Ravens have sort of separated themselves as one of the elite teams, not only this year, but of recent memory. The problem for them in this particular game is that, what Chiefs team are they going to face? Because that offense that I saw from the Chiefs on Sunday was not the offense I saw the rest of the year. That was the 2019 offense. That was the 2020 offense. That was the best of the best of the best of Patrick Mahomes and a really good Travis Kelce when we haven't seen that all throughout the course of the year. So I think there is a little bit of, at least when it comes to bettors or Vegas, there's a little bit of hesitation to go too far in the way toward the Ravens just because this version of the Chiefs, what we saw against the Bills, is unlike the previous version of the Chiefs that we saw for so much of the regular season. So if Mahomes is just going to have one of those vintage performances again, this matchup might be closer than we think, and that's probably why that line hasn't moved quite as much. But to your point, I do think Baltimore's really, really good. I think they have separated themselves not only among teams this year, but maybe some teams here of the recent past.
Yeah, so the things you were just talking about kind of relate to my question a little bit. I was going to ask you kind of what will have happened if the Chiefs get to and win the Super Bowl? Will it be because they found the rewind to their offense back to, like you said, 2019? Is it because Rashee Rice is now a number one receiver? Is it coaching? Is it they've played three teams who don't have the experience of winning these games? Or is it just kind of a combination of all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing would be this is football, and this is the NFL especially, and this is where the Chiefs have the advantage. Good offense beats good defense. I think you saw a great example of this past Chiefs game against the Bills, where L'Jarius Sneed hasn't given up a touchdown all year. The Chiefs seem to have Josh Allen scramble mode under pressure, and he rolls out to his left and just throws a dart in the end zone to Khalil Shakir, who catches it on a knee and rolls out of bounds. And it's just perfect execution. You know what I mean? Like, the Chiefs did things well in that play defensively. You know, they flushed him. They had good coverage. They had things mostly covered up, and it doesn't matter. You know, if you're a good offense, you can overcome that. I remember we talked last year about, hey, the Chiefs were facing the number one defense in the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. How will their offense do against a really good defense? Well, in a low-possession game, they scored 38 points and then won 38-35. I mean, that's the ticket to the Chiefs' success is just, you know, can you game plan something against the Ravens that's going to work, and then can your quarterback just be better than the other quarterback? Can he just elevate your team so much that most of this other stuff just doesn't matter? And sort of like that Josh Allen play to Khalil Shakir, where the Chiefs defense did a lot of good things, but it didn't matter because the quarterback makes a really good play, the receiver makes a really good play. That's your hope if you're a Chiefs fan, is just that all the rest of this stuff that's happened earlier in the season and that's happened throughout the season, both for the Chiefs and for the Ravens, it just doesn't matter as much because all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes is going to play at his Hall of Fame level and the absolute top of the top of what he's done. And if that happens, then this should be a great game.
Well, I'm listening to you, and I'm trying to figure it all out. We're talking with Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star because I agree with you. If the Chiefs are the Chiefs that we saw in previous years, they certainly are capable of beating anybody. But like you talked about, and like I believe, I think the Ravens are a team that maybe is better than any team we've seen in the last 10 years or so, maybe even including those great Chiefs team because they do it on both sides of the football. They have an MVP caliber quarterback. They run the ball extremely well. They've had receivers develop. They got Mark Andrews coming back. I feel like I'm not giving the Chiefs enough of a chance here, and I feel like that could burn me, Jesse.
It's tough. I mean, listen, guys, just true serum here. Like, I picked the Bills to win last week, and I read all the Mahomes underdog stats. I knew all of them. I knew he'd be motivated to play against them, and I just thought, you know, Josh Allen's pretty good too. The Bills have been pretty good throughout the course of the season. Those Bills fans are going to be nuts, and they were nuts. I mean, the Chiefs couldn't hear themselves on the field and had to go to, you know, mostly nonverbal communication. And in the end, it just didn't matter. You know, like Mahomes was so good it didn't matter. And to your point, Bob, I mean, the difference for the Chiefs defense is when the Chiefs were up late in that game by 3 points and it's a 2-minute warning, 4 or 5 years ago, you'd have been like, oh, no, the Bills are going to score this touchdown here with like 4 seconds left, and there's nothing the Chiefs can do about it, and there's going to be no time left because they're absolutely not going to mismanage the clock after the 13-second game. You know what I mean? This version of the Chiefs defense, you know, heated up Josh Allen a little bit, got him uncomfortable, got 2 incompletions in a row, and forced a really long field goal attempt that Tyler Bass didn't make. So there's a little bit more balance there on that end too. I was kind of thinking about this. I mean, to your point, I think if this game gets away from one of the teams, it's going to be from the Chiefs. You know what I mean? Like I can envision a scenario where things go well for the Ravens, the Chiefs get behind, they play a little desperate, they're not blocking well, you know, they're getting after Mahomes, he's getting frustrated, trying to play the playmaker role, and this thing kind of unravels a little bit, maybe a little bit reminiscent of the Super Bowl. But I could definitely foresee a scenario sort of like the Bills game, which we just saw in front of our own eyes, which is really good team, really good quarterback, really good staff, you know, pretty good defense, and it's Mahomes. It's like there's nobody on the planet you'd rather have on your side than this guy. And, oh, by the way, Travis Kelce, after he took Week 18 off, is looking a little bit better. And the Chiefs coaches are really stepping up their game in the postseason. They're finding answers in the run game and the pass game against their specific opponent. So you add all those things up, and I think that does even things up a little bit, even if
classic
history
game
would tell us throughout the course of this season. History tells us the course of the season that the Ravens should win this game, but it has all the makings of a classic game because you have Mahomes and the underdog factor and him being so good in big games, and that is the ultimate wild card.
I think I just had an epiphany, and here's
we'll be the judge of that.
And I'm not going to exactly tell you the epiphany, but it relates to this question. How much do you think the regular season has come to mean to the Chiefs? You see teams in the NBA, they're resting guys. Let's get our 45 wins, and we know we have the talent enough to get in the tournament and potentially win it. And the Chiefs don't do that. I'm not saying they take it easy or anything, but with Patrick Mahomes, you know you're going to get 11 wins. You can just roll the ball out there. Do you think the regular season still means as much to Kansas City as maybe it did 5 years ago?
Well, I'm not sure it means as much, but they're trying to win those games, and they're trying to get the 1 seed because that makes this path way easier. You know what I mean? We're having a different discussion if this game's at Arrowhead. All of a sudden, it's a 50-50 coin toss game, even if we think the Ravens are better. I think what happened, the Chiefs are obviously frustrated throughout the course of the season with their offense and the things that were going wrong and the penalties and the mistakes and the turnovers and the drop passes. How many times do we discuss all those things with the Chiefs? And that's what's going to trip them up in the playoffs, even though through 2 games of the playoffs, it really has not tripped them up because they've become a better version of themselves. I think we're going to look back. If this thing continues to go on, I think we're going to look back at that Raiders game on Christmas and really talk about it being the turning point because there were so many bad things happen in that game when it came to getting lined up. They didn't break the huddle on time. There was confusion. And all those things kind of came to a head where that next week, the Chiefs coaches, players, staff meetings, they changed things up. They're like, this is so bad that there needs to be a major change. So, they got coaches together in meetings and said, how can we clean up the pre-snap process? How can we get it so it's more simple so that the players can get signed, get lined up, get ready to play, get out there and go make plays? And since then, really, Cincinnati was better. They had the Week 18 game that didn't count. And then the Dolphins was better. Not perfect, but 26 points. That's going to be good enough for this defense most days. And then the Bills game was one of their best of the season, obviously, with what they were able to do last week. So I do think that sometimes you hear Bill Self talk about this with KU, where teams go through stuff, is what he calls it. They go through stuff and they come out better because of it. I do think that Raiders game potentially, it seemed like such a bad loss at the time, but it made them, it was so bad, it made them shake things up. And them shaking things up offensively has meant that their offense has come out on the other side much better, and now we're seeing a different Chiefs team than before. So if that led to what is happening now, then I think the Chiefs obviously are going to say that was all worth it.
All right, Jesse Newell with us from the Kansas City Star. Does Isaiah Pacheco get enough love? Because we talk Mahomes, we talk Kelsey, we talk the receivers, we talk about the disappointments to some degree of the regular season. This guy has really, really developed into one of the NFL's best rushers, in my opinion. He doesn't make many mistakes, which might surprise people because he runs at such a frantic pace. But this guy is, to me, a big plus on the Chiefs side of this game coming up Sunday.
Yeah, I think there's we can have a conversation about running backs and how they're not as valuable as other players, but I think Pacheco does a couple really, really good things for the Chiefs. One is, like you said, the style he runs with, it gives the Chiefs a physical mentality that really pumps up his teammates. And they want to run the football, and they want to block hard for him. And I'm not sure that was around before he came here. You know what I mean? Like, the reputation of the early 2020s Chiefs are kind of like defensively, like a little soft. They don't really hit you in the mouth. You know what I mean? And now you look at the Chiefs, it's like, what did Miami come out of that game thinking? Man, this Chiefs team in the cold punched us in the mouth. You know what I mean? They were physical, and they were also physical on the offensive end, and part of that is Isaiah Pacheco. You look at, plays of the game, and we talk all we want about, and I just did, about, hey, the Chiefs defense got to stop, and they got the missed field goal. The game was not over, guys. There's a minute 44 left. 2 timeouts for the Bills. Everybody in the stadium knows the Chiefs are going to run it. If you run it 3 times, you're putting the ball away in bad conditions against the wind, and the Bills are getting the ball back with about a minute left with that offense. And that first down play that Pacheco had was just unbelievable. He should have gotten 3 yards, and he got 8. He just could continue to move his legs. And listen, he's not a perfect bat. He's not always as patient as he needs to be. When he gets a one-on-one play, he rarely makes the guy miss one-on-one. But what he does so well is what I just said is he turns 4-yard gains into 7-yard gains. He turns 5-yard gains into 9-yard gains. He's always keeping his pad level low and moving that pile forward. And for this Chiefs offense, those extra yards just mean so much. It changes the situation you need to play with. They don't need a home run back. They need a guy that is physical and that grinds out those yards and able to put them in better situations. So, yeah, he's been really good, and we need to put this in there. too. Jarek McKinnon's not available, so Isaiah Pacheco is being asked to do a lot more in pass protection and the receiving game as well, and he stepped right up to the challenge. So to have all that from a back, to have to play with that mentality and also be a guy on his rookie deal, the Chiefs really found something with that 7th-round pick.
What are the odds you think that a lesser heralded offensive player will make a potentially game-changing play? Or do you think it's keep it simple? We got Kelsey, we got Pacheco, we got Rice now. Obviously, Mahomes can make plays. Is that the more likely kind of scenario?
It's a good question because it really depends on your thought on this because if you're playing the Dolphins and you're 4.5-point favorites at home, you sort of just want nothing bad to happen. You know what I mean? If things just play out as they're supposed to, you're going to win the game. So, like, don't make any crazy fumbles. Don't make any crazy interceptions. Just play the thing out and hope, things are pretty much normal. When you're a 3.5-point underdog on the road, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to do some crazy? Like, is Kadarius Toney healthy? Man, that guy's been so unreliable all year, but he's got more wiggle than anybody else in the receiving room. I think for the Chiefs, what's cost them so much this year is just the mistakes. So I would not be surprised if they avoided those players, and I'm probably going to throw McCole Hardman in there now, since on his 2 touches Sunday he had 2 fumbles, including what would have been a crushing blow if the Chiefs had lost that game for him to fumble at the 1-yard line through the end zone. Just a horrible mistake on a first down. So I don't have that exact answer, but at some point it feels like a Chiefs player is going to have to make a play from Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just scheme up everything open. You can't just have everything be just – your coaches being smarter than the other guys. The other guys' coaches are pretty smart too, as we've seen from the Ravens this year. So I don't know who that player is, and it'd be really tough for me to say that no guy's going to stand up after we saw MVS after doing literally nothing all year other than run coverage off, make 2 huge plays in this pass game. So that's always possible. That's what makes the playoffs fun, is you can completely rewrite the narrative. And I guess one that we'll keep an eye on. Sky Moore is eligible to come back. I don't know. Like, with Sky Moore 2 straight AFC Championship games being the hero, that would be a crazy storyline if it happened. But like I said, with this Chiefs team, you really just can't count anything out because they're going to need somebody to make a play against the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, a hugely anticipated game. We've been talking about it with Kansas City Star beat writer Jesse Newell. Jesse, we really appreciate your time. Good luck on your travels to Baltimore, and we'll read your work.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. There's Jesse Newell. Where will you be watching that ball game?
KWCH Channel 12.
You'll be at the studio, huh?
I will.
Will folks be gathered around the television?
No. We'll all be doing our jobs, but we'll certainly have an eye on the game. We'll have a bunch of TVs that will be on the game.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
A big crew on tap Sunday?
Not really. We got Haley out there. We got a few producers. TJ will be out there, and me.
All right. Chris Strathman joins us, head girls basketball coach at McPherson. The Bullpups always good. Chris, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Your voice is a little shaky. You been practicing?
No, it's just something I deal with. So that's the way it's going to be.
Okay. Well, tell us about your basketball team. We were remarking in the last segment about how you load up your schedule. You played Andover, you played Bishop Miege. Those are your 2 losses. How much do games like that help your basketball team, regardless of the outcome?
Well, those 2 games helped a ton. I mean, you're not going to find many better teams in the state in any class than Miege and Andover. I know Andover's number 1 in 5A and Miege number 1 in 4A, and very deservedly so. They both have tremendous players and great coaches, and so those are great challenges for us. We knew going in those are going to be very tough games for us to win. Just like the Derby game before Christmas, those are going to be very tough to win. We were fortunate enough to beat Derby, but Miege and Andover got us, but we definitely took a lot away from those games.
Yeah, and it's not like it gets much easier. You have Circle. How battle-tested do you feel like this team already is?
I feel very good about where we're at, honestly. We have an extremely tough tournament this week as well. The Circle game was supposed to be January 5th. It got rescheduled for this coming Monday on the 29th. But this week we've got Clearwater on Thursday, first round of our tournament in McPherson.
Wow.
If we win that, we'll play Shawnee Mission South very likely. They're the new number 1 in 6A because Blue Valley North finally got beat. And then the other teams that are really tough teams in our tournament include Manhattan, who at seeding time had lost 1, and then Olathe South, who's also just lost 1. So we've got some really, really tough teams in our tournament. So to load that up as much as we can each year is a goal. And then those games before Christmas, like we said, with Andover, Derby, Miege, just very tough schedule. And we make it as tough of a non-league schedule as we possibly can.
Well, you get an A+ for that. I'll tell you, that's an amazing schedule you have. Chris Strassman, head girls basketball coach at McPherson. So we talked to Coach Kinnaman recently about his boys team. They're obviously tremendous, and the girls team is the same. We recognize a lot of the names on his team from years gone by. There's certain families in McPherson that just seem to have a pipeline of producing good players, and one of those is the Pyle family. You have a Pyle on your team, Grace Pyle. Tell us about her and tell us about some of your other players that are contributing.
Yeah, well, Grace actually graduated in 21.
Well, there you go. I'm on a roll today.
That's all right. She is a junior at Pitt State and having a tremendous year for them. So she's having they have got a really good team this year, and she's been scoring the ball well for them most games anyway. And they were ranked in D2, so they're doing really well. Right now, as far as the traditional names in McPherson that people would recognize, we don't have any more Piles coming on the girls' side. But we do have a couple Alexanders. One's a sophomore and is on our varsity. And then her younger sister's an 8th grader that'll be joining us next year. So other than that, those are kind of the big names that people would recognize. But other than that, we have just some really solid kids, Our leader and best player right now is the senior Carter Albert. Her brother was a great baseball player for the Bullpups the last couple of years, and they won state. So that's kind of an athletic name here in town. Other than that, we've got Kaiden Thompson is a really, really good player on the boys' side. He's a senior. His younger sister Jayla is really coming along for us. She's a freshman, and she's just having a great stretch right now since Christmas anyway, and just has a really bright future for us. So those are kind of some of the family connections with names that people might be aware of. But the other girls on our team are just kind of first generation, first time through McLeod and Moores and Ulrichs and people like that haven't had older siblings in our programs. It's a little different for them.
Yeah. So how do you feel like? Are you in? Now I feel shaky about my own knowledge. You're in 5A, 4A.
We're in 4A. We are the.
Can we start this interview over?
No, it's fine.
There you are. Okay, I found you. So yeah, your side of the state, obviously in 4A, you've played tough teams already. Do you look at where you stand in the class? Because you can have a great record and still be kind of down in the pack a little bit. How good is 4A?
Well, it's very good on both sides of the state. It's really good. On the west side, as far as seeding and that stuff, of course, fortunately, we seed in 4A. Right now, you've got Wellington. I think they've just lost one. They're coming off of a great win out at the Colby tournament. Yeah, they're 12-1. Circle still lost one, and right now we're standing in third place in the West at 7-2. But like I said, we've got Clearwater. If we win that, we'll have really, really tough games to win on Friday and Saturday both, and then Circle makeup on Monday. So 4 games coming up in 5 days. It's going to be very tough for us. We look forward to the challenge. So if we can get through that stretch, and win at least a couple, 3 of those, it'd be amazing if we win all 4, honestly, with how tough it's going to be. But I'd be pretty confident that by the time the end of the season comes, that we'll have a chance to be one of those top 4 seeds in the West. which would mean we would get to host Sub-State all the way through, which is definitely a goal of ours to be able to do that.
So we mentioned Kurt Kinnaman and, of course, yourself have been at McPherson for a long time. I'm curious, on a human level, how much you guys share notes, talk about basketball. Are your systems similar? How much do you have in common, and then how much maybe do you do a little differently?
Well, I think there is definitely some crossover, and there are some definite differences too. So it does go both ways. And yes, we do share. We share ideas. We bounce things off of each other. We both have some players that, I felt like I was looking at some stuff over winter break actually that I knew we could benefit from, and I knew one of his best shooters could benefit from. So I shared that. He shared some stuff with me too, so it does go both ways. Similarity-wise, we just both have really high expectations for our kids. We know the community has high expectations for us as coaches and our program, so we hold our kids to a high standard as well. We go about it a little bit differently, and he would be free to admit that. But both of our methods, I think, seem to be successful. They seem to have worked for the long term, and that's always the goal. One thing I think that we both have in common is, our end goal. Some years is definitely going to be a disappointment if you don't win state with the talent that you might have. But to me, my end goal, and I think Kurt's as well, is always to maximize whatever talent we do have. And so if that means you end up 16-6 and you're done before state, if you maximize your team the best that you could, you can look yourself in the mirror and say you did the best that you could. And some years that means you better get to the Final Four with the team that you have and the talent that you have, the depth, et cetera. And anything short of that's probably a disappointment. We're honest with ourselves. We're honest with our expectations that we have, and we know it. We embrace it. And I think to a large degree because of that, so do our kids. So our kids know the expectations here in McPherson, and I think that they do a great job of handling that. They do a really good job of rising to the level of expectation, which is not an easy thing to do, especially in a community like McPherson.
McPherson girls coach Chris Strathman with us. So I talked to my son earlier in the show about the idea I have. I like to visit Kansas communities. I've obviously been to McPherson a lot in my life, but I've never really explored the community. Well, if we decide to do that on some Sunday afternoon, where should I go?
Well, if it's open, you got to go check out the community building. As a sports historian, I'm sure you'd love to see the community building. It's kind of the home court for the 1936 Olympic champions in men's basketball. So it was the first time that it was an Olympic sport. So that's their home court. It's been replenished renovated. And it's just a beautiful place. So that'd be one to go. Now, maybe locked, but we could sure get you in. We'd love for you to see the Roundhouse if you're up here on a Sunday. But
I've been to the Roundhouse many, many times.
Yeah,
and it's one of the top venues in the state of Kansas, undoubtedly.
Yeah, so it gets a pretty fun place to play. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Chris, we really appreciate it. It's good to talk. Good to talk to you. The Bullpups in action in your tournament coming up starting Thursday evening against Clearwater. Certainly a game you can't look past. That's a good basketball team as well. So good luck. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Chris Strathman. I was looking at Max Preps. I have trouble. There's no real source anymore.
No.
So I'm left to trust Max Preps, which listed Grace Pyle as being on the roster this year.
Well, somebody needs to update that roster.
Well, so why don't you update it?
I don't think I have that authority or capability.
Well, somebody needs to. I'm tired of looking like a fool. What do you mean?
Well, nothing. At least you can acknowledge it.
All right, we've got an hour left. Jeff has a game that he's going to involve both yours truly and Max in today. Is it a hockey category?
No.
Well, we'll see how that goes.
It's not a sports category.
It's not a sports category. Maybe in honor of the Academy Award nominations.
Sort of, but not really.
All right, we will be back. The Bob and Jeff Show on KFH.
How powerful is Cox Fiber? Powerful enough to keep fans across the country in the action on the biggest game days of the year. Whether you're one of 65,000 fans at Allegiant Stadium or you're streaming the game at home with Cox Fiber from the company with America's fastest download speeds. Whenever it matters most, Cox keeps you connected. Limited availability in select areas. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions may apply. Analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence data. Fixed median download speeds. US Q3 2023.
Babysitter paid. Pizza ordered. Flowers delivered. You can do a lot of things with your phone, and with Blue Link Plus, you can even access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
Oh, there it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Just another way we make owning a Hyundai Tucson Limited more convenient than ever. Learn more about the new Tucson and Blue Link Plus at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.